So what actually is philosophy? Well, at essence, it is the love of knowledge. More accurately, I guess, translated to the pursuit of knowledge. Why is this potentially problematic? Well, you see, the thing is with most philosophy disciplines, they ask questions and you're trying to seek knowledge of things that you don't really get answers for. With every single philosophical theory, there is no concrete answer really to anything. And this is potentially why so many of us are so unhappy when it comes to the discipline. Because every single question you want answered doesn't get answered. And I think this isn't necessarily a fundamental issue. What the issue kind of stems from is the fact that knowledge itself is never defined in philosophy concretely. There is no one definition of knowledge. I mean, this can be seen, the Platonic kind of idea, I guess, of justified true belief as destroyed by Edmund Gettier in the 60s. And even that definition in the first place wasn't necessarily one that stuck. There have been many definitions of knowledge, and the fact that the love of knowledge, the pursuit of knowledge, the actual thing that you're pursuing is never defined, is problematic, right? You've also then got the whole thing of skepticism, where can you really be sure you know things? I mean, Descartes', entire cogito, which is supposed to prove, clear and distinct ideas, what you know, is flawed. I mean, David Hume, argues that, well, hey, you might have the cogito. Does that prove you're a thinking thing? Does that not just prove that you are thinking? That doesn't mean you're a thinking thing. It does not mean that the thoughts are correlated to one bigger system of a thinking thing. It could just be distinct thoughts that happen to be similar one moment from the next. And I think this is what I have a problem with in philosophy. I do it because, I've got a monkey brain, and I want answers for, life's questions. Nothing as drastic as, what's the meaning of life? I think frankly at this point, from what I've experienced, there really is no meaning in life. It is, I'm not coming from a position of nihilism exactly, but it's there or thereabouts, There is no real raison d'être, if you know what I mean. There is no reason of being. You simply have to kind of craft yourself something, I think Camus puts it quite interestingly in terms of living is just the prevention of suicide, right? And, then you've obviously got other things that tie in, such as your duties and, acting morally and stuff, which is the next step up from what is the point of life, I think, is how to live a good life, how to, be kind to other people if that's a thing you need to do, if you need to apologize to people when you've offended them, or, just anything really, etiquette, all that kind of good stuff. I think the thing is, philosophy is one of those subjects that for all the cases and all the research and all the facts, which there are no facts in philosophy really, apart from, those tautologies such as, a bachelor is an unmarried man, or, triangle has three sides, all that kind of good stuff. There really is no answers that you get. I think this is why so many people are quite skeptical about philosophy from the outside looking in that haven't really properly studied it. And I think that's partially why it kind of gets a bit of like you guys are just like existentializing, or you guys are just, overcomplicating things that don't need to be overcomplicated. And yeah, that's partially because the people that do it, or a lot of them in my experience, take it to a personal level where they're not just doing it for, like a school grade or a degree. They're actually doing it because they're interested in it. Most of those people are very deeply unhappy. And I think it's just interesting the type of people it kind of draws towards it. Because if you're genuinely interested in like theology, you don't particularly go into philosophy as much. Obviously, theology is arguably a key proponent of philosophy. You can definitely do it without really scratching too much philosophical, argument. I also think the same with kind of like morality. It's a phrase that everyone uses these days, like, oh, that's immoral, or this company is being immoral. And again, there is no definition or clear definition of morality, which is why it's so problematic that, this morality is somehow, people always act like, oh, it's a subjective thing, but really it's not. I think it's interesting the way it's put by, I believe it's J.L. Mackie, and it's like, well, all morality really is the system which you've grown up in and become comfortable within. And then you might have some personal like values in there that aren't directly from your environment, but the majority of it is. I mean, the clear example that's always used is in the UK, we'd say that, well, not allowing women to drive, not allowing women to go to school and get a free education is immoral. In Saudi Arabia or Iran, it's not really immoral because there it's just not seen as an issue for the majority of people. Now, of course, there are a lot of women in Saudi Arabia and quite a lot of men as well that don't agree with this, and they do think it's immoral as well. But the majority of people, because they've grown up in a system where that's normal, it's not considered immoral. And I think this is the problem with philosophy. Not the fact there's not universal ideas, because there are certain ideas that are pretty damn universal, like murder is wrong. But even so, you still have murder that's condoned by the state. It's just kind of clothed up in, taking the life or assassination or whatever you want to call it. I mean, the military, if we're breaking it down, it is murder, right? It's just called, service or whatever to kind of soften the blow, but it is essentially murder. You're taking another man's life without, and it's also pre-motivated. So I think I don't know. It's just one of them things, really. I think philosophy that it messes with your mind, makes you very unhappy. And that's why so many philosophers are deeply unhappy, and also, most of the people that come up with these stupendous ideas are incredibly mentally ill. I mean, Rene Descartes, one of the greatest thinkers to ever live, was riddled with, mental illness from early on in his life. I mean, Jean-Paul Sartre, one of my favourite philosophers personally, again, riddled with absolute demons. I mean, it kind of draws towards the people that have, deeply dissatisfied with the way things are, trying to find answers, and end up, when they realise that they can't find answers, just end up being more unhappy. And I think that in itself is what philosophy is it's just a pursuit of answers and knowledge that kind of never ends, and it never gives you answers. Because every single thing you come up with, there are 101 counterpoints and there are 101 points to do it. It's just kind of, completely arbitrary, completely, to an extent, meaningless. And also it's one of those things that I don't think many people gain genuine fulfillment from philosophy. It's that constant thing, isn't it? Ignorance is bliss. Once you start overthinking things and start going down the philosophical route of like, are we actually, here for a purpose? Is this complete chance? I mean, is there a meaning to life? How should we act? What is right? What is wrong? Does that even matter? You just go down this rabbit hole of then eventually kind of either going to the loophole down of, well, life's completely meaningless, which I think every single philosopher has got to that point at some point, after reading a lot of scriptures and stuff, or doing their own research, or whatever the reason might be. 100% have got to that point where they're thinking, yeah, life is completely and utterly pointless. And the only reason to live it is basically for the people around you. I think that's the thing that I'm going to leave you on, is life may seem meaningless, and it very arguably is. But it's worth living sometimes, because, the things you experience can, you can help other people, you can help yourself, and also, it's bigger than you. I mean, quite frankly, you're one person out of 8 billion on the planet. You're really not that important. But you're important to those people that are quite close to you. And, that in itself is a reason. So, keep going, I guess, and, yeah.
Helicopter, helicopter,